Welcome. I'm Nancy Van Arendonk, and I'm the president of the Franklin Township Historical Society here in Indianapolis, Indiana. And this is our very first attempt at having an online version of our annual Old Fashioned Christmas. We are disappointed that we're having to come to you this way instead of gathering in person. We've seen an increase in attendance at our event in recent years, and we have really enjoyed giving it to you as far as being able to share stories of the holidays, its history, the music of our antique pump organ, and so many other things, including the candlelit luminaria lining this walkway up to our 1871 building, which of course I can't duplicate well on video, although I did give you a little lantern light behind me here. That's the best I think I can do today. Um, but we are still going to give you many of the aspects of our old fashioned Christmas. We will have music from our antique pump organ that is original to our 1871 building. And our organist of recent years, Jim Kemp, will be telling you about how this pump organ works and playing Christmas carols on it, including one carol which was written, the original music for it, 1,200 years ago. So you will get to hear music that's been in use at Christmas season for over 1,000 years. We are also going to have a reading of A Visit from St. Nicholas, or sometimes called "'Twas the Night Before Christmas, with illustrations from an 85-year-old book. So that'll kind of lend a little historical aspect to that reading as well. We will be meeting with St. Nicholas. I will leave you just with that much of a tidbit because it's a little different. Um, I hope that you will enjoy these few minutes that we have together. We are not able to duplicate, as I said, the effect of having, as we did in 2019, 90 people crammed shoulder to shoulder in a 149-year-old building so that we could fully experience the Christmas season together. But at least this will give you a taste and maybe a little bit of information about this holiday that we are ready to celebrate. So, welcome to the online version of an old fashioned Christmas. So, for a start, I wanted to talk to you about Christmas cards. The first Christmas cards appeared, and I doubt that they looked like this, in 1843 in England. This was in the Victorian era. A gentleman named Sir Henry Cole commissioned the design of the very first Christmas card, which had an illustration on it and the words printed, "A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you." He had 1,000 of the cards printed. He used some himself and he sold the rest to the public. This started a huge trend. They were really on a roll. People wanted to send cards to their friends. But it was during Queen Victoria's reign that Christmas really got huge. She reigned from 1837 to 1901. And I believe I've told you at previous old fashioned Christmas celebrations that it is due to Queen Victoria's family that the Christmas tree became popular in England and then, of course, later in this country. In 1840, Queen Victoria had married Prince Albert. Albert had been born and raised in Germany, where having a small evergreen tree in the house and decorating it was a part of the annual Christmas celebration. And when he came to England and he married Victoria, he brought that tradition with him. How this affected the country was that after an illustration of the royal family posing with their tree appeared in the Illustrated London News newspaper, people wanted to copy what the royal family did. And so it became popular to have a Christmas tree. Now, take note, the Christmas trees at that time were not the huge things that we see 7 feet tall in living rooms today. They were little tabletop trees. In fact, the evergreen was often just the top of another tree cut off and brought into the house to be a small table-sized tree. And the gifts, which were smaller and much simpler then, were actually hung on the branches of the tree. So you're not going to have a PS5 hanging from a tiny tree branch, but at that time, the little gifts that people were giving were hung from the tree. One of the things that we do every year at the old-fashioned Christmas is have a reading of the poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, otherwise known as The Night Before Christmas.
Good evening. My name is Elena Van Arendonk. I'm the secretary of the Franklin Township Historical Society, and I'll be doing a reading for you this evening. The poem A Visit from St. Nicholas was first published in 1823 when a friend of writer Clement Clark Moore submitted it anonymously to a local newspaper. Moore had written the poem for his children after being inspired while riding in a sleigh on a winter shopping trip. Although there was little doubt about the poem's authorship, Moore didn't publicly admit to writing the poem until 1837. As a professor, he was afraid that being associated with such an unscholarly work might damage his professional reputation. Though it wasn't his intent, this poem, more popularly known now as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," cemented Moore's literary legacy. Not only did it go on to become one of the most recognizable American poems in history, but it was largely responsible for establishing the popular image of St. Nicholas that survives to this day, even the concept that he slides down the chimney on Christmas Eve to deliver gifts. This evening, I'll be reading from a copy of this poem that has been in my family for 85 years. It's my pleasure to share this Christmas tradition with you. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled our heads for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there rose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Dunder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
The pump organ in our Historical Society meeting house is the original organ used by the Big Run Baptist Church. When our building was built, there was, of course, no electricity in it. In fact, to this day, there's still no plumbing. But when the building was built, they would have had to heat it with fuels like wood or coal in stoves on either side of the building. And they did not have any electric light. Since they were meeting generally during the day, that wouldn't have been a problem, but it would have been probable that had they needed lights, they could have used oil lamps probably attached to the wall. But because there was no electricity, the music came in the form of a pump organ. And this is something that our organist for the old-fashioned Christmas of recent years, Jim Kemp, is going to tell us about today, so that you have a little more information just how this amazing and very antique instrument works.
Hello everybody, and Merry Christmas. I thought before I start to play some of the songs, I'd like to talk about this wonderful pump organ that's here in this lovely church. This was original to this church, I understand, and it left for a while but came back. It's been worked on over the years a few times. I've been playing this for several years here for the old-fashioned Christmas. I want to tell you a little bit about how the organ works. So these drawbars are called stops, and they're very much like a modern pump organ, except that instead of using an air compressor, the wind for this instrument is provided by my feet. So you just pump the pedals, much like a player piano. There are different sounds on here. Some of them are familiar with modern day pipe organs. Vox, Humana, Dulcet, Celeste, different sounds. But what I wanted to do is demonstrate. I'm going to just play a few notes here. And then this last one, you notice I don't have punched in. If I pull it out, it links this note to an octave. You can maybe, if the camera's good enough, you can see that when I play this note is also playing. However, if I don't have that stop in, I can decide in the middle of a song to put this left pedal with my knee out. So there it is not out. And when I put it out, it now has the same effect and plays a full octave, giving the organ a more full sound. This organ is manufactured in the United States by the Western Cottage Organ Company from Ottawa, Illinois. And while I've never been able to find a date on this, pump organs were beginning to be manufactured in around 1864 in that area. Some of them were still manufactured as late as 1955. This is much older than 1955. I'm guessing this is somewhere in the early 1900s, like probably 1900 to 1915, in that range. That would probably be close. If someone knows more exact history on that, please let Nancy know so we can know it. Basically, that's how it works. The right pedal here is simply volume. When I go out on that with my knee, it increases the volume, giving again more volume for the organ. So you really have 6 things going on here: 2 feet pedals to pump for air, a left knee, a right knee, and 2 hands to make the pump organ work. So that's just a little bit of an overview. I hope you enjoy the sound it makes, and some of these you can sing along with. And thanks very much to have the opportunity. I love the opportunity to come here once a year and play this fine instrument. Thank you.
One carol that Jim will be playing for us tonight is O Come, Emmanuel. Now, this was originally not written in English, and it was originally, the music at least, was not even a Christmas carol. The music is a metrical paraphrase of, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, O Antiphons, which is a series of antiphons attached to the Magnificat at Vespers, sung over the final days before Christmas. Basically, this was something that would be sung or chanted in a monastery in the 8th or 9th century. 7 days before Christmas Eve, the monasteries would start singing this in anticipation of Christmas Eve. And the song that we have today is using music that dates back 1,200 years, which is pretty cool. The 1861 translation by John Mason Neal is the most prominent that we hear today in the English speaking world. The original lyrics or chants were, of course, in Latin. So when you hear this song, think about the fact that people were using this to celebrate Christmas, to anticipate Christmas more than 1,000 years ago. Jim is also doing a song for us that is actually, he's going to do as a special number. Who is he in yonder stall? Now, I'll admit I was not familiar with this the way I am many of the more common Christmas carols, but Who is he in yonder stall is by Benjamin Russell Hanby, who was born in 1833, lived to 1867, but he wrote about 80 songs, several of which are popular as Christmas songs even today. Up on the housetop, if you know, up on the housetop, reindeer paws, out jumps good old Santa Claus. Jolly old St. Nicholas, lean your ear this way. He wrote those as well as Who is he in yonder stall? He was from Ohio, and his father was a conductor, if you want to use that term, a person who assisted in the Underground Railroad to help the slaves flee to the free North. Benjamin, who wrote these songs, wrote a number of songs and hymns and carols before dying of tuberculosis. Some of his other songs are still popular at other times of the year. Silent Night is another carol that Jim is going to play for us. This is possibly the most popular Christmas carol of all. It is one that ties into the story I've told in the past about the ceasefire during World War I, when on Christmas Eve the shooting stopped and troops from both sides sang this song, presumably in their different languages. But still, it's kind of cool to think that on Christmas a battle stopped and people were able to share the same song. The song Silent Night was written originally in German in 1818, and it became increasingly popular during the Victorian period. It eventually spread across the Atlantic and was first sung in New York City in 1839. So it's still very, very popular today, and it seems only appropriate that that should be one of the carols shared from our 1800s pump organ. The historical St. Nicholas was a bishop in Turkey. We don't actually know what he wore, but thanks in part to the Coca-Cola Company, which hired an artist named Haddon Sundblom to create advertising for Coca-Cola in the mid 20th century, we all know that Santa wears a red suit with lots of fur and a black belt, that he travels with reindeer, and that apparently he drinks Coca-Cola, or at least he did in the 20th century. However, earlier there were many ways of depicting Saint Nick, Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus, whatever name you wish to give to him. And today we have a visit from an earlier version of Saint Nicholas.
Dear, is this thing on?
Check the top corner.
Oh, yes, I think this is on then. Excellent.
It should be.
Good.
Still on from
Good.
before.
Excellent. Wonderful. Very well. Very, very good. Greetings from St. Nicholas on behalf of the Franklin Township Historical Society. Things are a little different this year. For as you can see, we're not together in the same way as we have been in the past years. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is different. But good news. I can still visit you over the Christmas season. I have been in consultation with the finest medical professionals, and Dr. Fauci has attested publicly, no less, that I am both free from and incapable of carrying COVID, which is a wonderful thing. So, although we cannot get together and cannot speak as normal, I would like you to still remember the reason for and the camaraderie of this particular holiday season. Even though we are separate, we can still be together in our hearts. With that, I wish you the fondest Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to follow. Good night.
This is Bill Clark, a member of the Franklin Township Historical Society and a longtime resident of the Franklin Township area. And as we share our Christmas thoughts and things with you, I just wanted to share the reading of the Christmas story from the Bible, from Luke chapter 2. You know, sometimes sometimes we get all wrapped up in the hustle and bustle of Christmas and kind of forget the spiritual part of it. So we want to make sure that we each of us that we get that in our minds as well. And it came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This census first took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. So all went to be registered, everyone to his own city. Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, who was with child. So it was that while they were there, the days were completed for her to be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Now there were in the same country shepherds living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. And behold, an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were greatly afraid. Then the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. And this will be the sign to you. You will find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger." And suddenly there were with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." So it was when the angels had gone away from them in the heavens that the shepherds said to one another, "Let us now go to Bethlehem and see the thing that has come to pass, which was told, which the Lord has made known unto us." And they came with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. Now when they had seen him, they made widely known the saying which was told them concerning this Christ. And all those who heard it marveled at those things which was said to them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things in her heart and pondered them. Then the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and said, as it was told them. After 8 days were passed in the circumcision of the Christ, his name was called Jesus, the name given to him by the angel before he was conceived in the womb. This is the story of the birth of Jesus, as recorded in the Bible by the writer Luke. And I think sometimes we see the little statement, the reason for the season is Jesus, and this gives us the basis for that.
Thank you for being with us for our very first online old-fashioned Christmas. We hope that we can be with you in person next time, but at least this way we had the opportunity to share a little of the Christmas history and hopefully some good cheer. I hope that you all have a wonderful holiday season. If there's anything that we can do for you, questions we can answer, materials we can get for you, we do have a wide variety of publications. You can do any of the following. You can go to our website, fths.org, or you can go to our Facebook page, Franklin Township Historical Society on Facebook, or you can email us at franklintownshiphistory@gmail.com. So get in touch, and by all means, we would love to have you, if you're not a member, to join us. It's extremely inexpensive, and it gives you opportunity to get our newsletters, to be part of special events, and most of all, for us to get to enjoy you. So I hope that this will be just the beginning of a lot of additional fun activities. So take care and Merry Christmas.